questions from any of the remote sites?
This is Mary Beth in Indianapolis.
Go ahead.
I just want to commend David on a great presentation. In my former life, I was the pricing chief at Wright Laboratory in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and on the pricing policy staff at Air Force Material Command. And this was a great overview of government accounting, not only for those of you involved in SBIR contracts, but other government contracts. Excellent job, David.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
This is Ivan Lynch from Merrillville, and thank you very much, David. This was very illuminating.
Thank you.
So I have a question with WAWF. It used to be, well, actually before WAWF, it could take. So I remember our first phase one. We had a project where it was a 6-month project. Reports due 2 months in, 4 months in, 6 months in, and the payments were tied with that. And it was very surprising that it could be a substantial time lag between submitting the report and all the acceptances and then payments. In fact, it was that first year where it was, okay, you go to the bank and say, all right, deposit that one to the company account, and then this is my personal one. What's a typical time frame that you can expect working with WAWF on payment cycles?
Yes, the first payment cycle that I was aware of WWF took about 60 days. And after that, it was somewhere between 20 days at the smallest and 30 days at the longest. Now, you bring up another interesting point as to how the government pays. What you just described to me on your phase one sounds like a payment system that was tied to deliverables. Well, the government doesn't want to put you out of business. That is certainly negotiable when negotiating on phase one or phase two or any government contract is you have to tell them what the cash flow is. And I have found the government to be more than willing to establish a payment plan that will keep it working for you. So I think that. Pardon?
Firm fixed price.
Well,
All of it should be.
but even at a firm fixed price, sometimes the expenses are variable. So it's nice if you have a projection of how the expenses are coming in and to negotiate with the government how you want to be paid on that. And they have ways to verify if you've met that deliverable or if you have made a certain amount of progress along the way. Certainly they don't want to put you out of business. They want to, particularly if you're an SBR. Sean?
We actually had an experience where, sorry, I was just going to relate, well, I guess 2 data points on WAWF experience. One was payments, because most of our contracts have been subcontracts, but one of our initial ones that paid in early 2008 was direct to the government. And two observations. One, our experience there was we were paid in 30 days as we were supposed to be, according to the terms, but only once somebody had approved that the deliverable was received.
Yes.
And they didn't do bad on that. It was about 7 days on that, but it could have been 37 days before somebody put it in the system. That just depended on one person that we weren't even directly involved with in the project, going in the system to say, yes, this was delivered, this was supposed to be. But then the second point was we actually had a case where they weren't very accommodating, and we carried the costs all the way through the execution of the project and that 37 days because they didn't provide any progress payments. And they pushed back, and the government office acted like they weren't able to do it on that contract. But people informed us later, including people on the government side of the fence, that in fact they could have structured intermediate progress payments during that contract, which would have been a big benefit, like you're talking about.
Right.
So I think it's good advice for people to push for that, especially if you're doing something more like BJ related, in 6 months, you don't want to be pushed out a really long time with minimal cash flow.
Right. Well, we use the term negotiating with the government, and I think a lot of times in business we think of negotiation as playing hardball with somebody and trying to get more what you want. But really, when we say negotiating with the government, what we're talking about is to let them know what your needs are, and they let you know what their needs are, and they they start out with a boilerplate document, and that is not going to fit everything. So negotiation is a process that you work favorably in this relationship together to make that work for both the company and the government. Alan?
On the chart of accounts, I currently use QuickBooks, sorry, I didn't. Does it behoove me to make all my chart of accounts now, knowing that 90% of them I'm not going to use until I have all of these contracts? Or do I wait until, do I have the basic 4 or 5, and then add all those other ones later?
That's a good question. It can get confusing, particularly in QuickBooks, if you have to sift down through a whole big line of chart of accounts to find something. In QuickBooks, as I recall, the window doesn't even expand to show you the full field, so it's very difficult to see. So I would recommend that you set up minimally the categories, sales and marketing, everything in there, G&A, everything in there, your direct costs, everything in there, your unallables, and then fill in the accounts, the sub-accounts under that as you're using them. So you don't have to get carried away with, you don't have to import that big chart of accounts that I gave you, but it would be well to set up the categories, and then once you do use those, use the ones I gave you, because those are fairly standard throughout the industry, and people will recognize the name of it. Don't try to invent a new name for an expense.
I'm going to disagree. I'm sorry.
It's Amy, she's
She's very disagreeable.
I have disagreed. Well, your government contract accounting strategy is get my wife to do it. So.
Hey, that works.
Can I get your wife to do it?
I'm really expensive.
BJ's wife to do it.
I think we started off badly with our company, and then we revamped everything in 2010. Is that right? And started over with a brand new set of books, and we used the full chart of accounts that you probably have in your handout. I didn't look at it, sorry. But as I'm putting things in, I find that if I'm under, bid and proposal, and I have my 10 different categories that the accountant we used told me to put in there, and I'll have something in it, I could put it in other direct cost or other random costs or miscellaneous, but oh look, there's something there for travel meals that I wouldn't necessarily have thought, oh gee, I need travel meals under bid and proposal, but there it is, and yeah, that fits better than where I would have put it, which would have been miscellaneous random bid and proposal stuff. So sometimes having the full menu of available categories can help you be more specific, so that when you get the contracts that are subject to the greater scrutiny, you have your system in place, and you can say, oh yeah, I've been doing that forever. See, look, I got travel meals, and they're like, oh, look at you, good job, and you get gold star. So I'm of the opinion that you should begin as you want to go on. Was it the IBM guy who said that you start, act like you're a big company when you're in your garage, or was it Apple? Anyway, one of the tech guys said that, start as though you need to continue. So I think, to respectfully disagree, I would say go for it and set up the whole chalupa. And it's a mess at first. Do it at the beginning of the fiscal year. But once you get going with that, then you won't ever have to do it again. It's kind of like, it's cleansing.
If you do take that approach, which certainly is also a good approach, but if you do take that approach, then the other thing you might do is just check the inactive box temporarily.
Oh, yeah.
And then you don't have to look at it.
That's true.
So what do you charge an hour, Dave?
You've got the better part all free today.
Yeah, so you don't need it. Are there any other questions online from any of their websites? Bring up their pictures to see if anybody's still in those rooms.
Yeah, there's people in the room, yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Ivan.
Well, I appreciate it very much, and I want to comment, it's not for off my trust account, but I will trust your take on that, and I will go with your recommendation. So that's my take. I'd rather have you on board and advising me what to do, what not to do, as opposed to me trying to invent the wheel. So thank you very much.
Anything else from here in the room or on any of their websites? We're doing pretty well.
I guess I would,
Sorry, go ahead.
this is Mary Beth in Indianapolis. As a former Air Force employee in contracting and pricing, I'd say David's advice to you all about dealing with DCAA and DCMA and the different government entities was just spot on.
Great. Anything else? Okay, so I have a question, it's kind of funny. Is going to the bathroom in direct support of facilities administration?
Or getting a cup of coffee.
Let me just say that however you determine to do that, you better be consistent.
All right, very good. Thank you all for attending. I hope it was useful. I am going to put in a plug for filling out the survey that I'll be sending along tomorrow. I promise it won't be very long, but please do that so we can continue to improve these kinds of things. Thanks a lot. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.